Hello, Duke fans. Welcome to the Duke Blue Devils Insider Podcast, your daily dose of all things Duke athletics related. My name is Hugh Strain, your daily host and beat writer at Duke Blue Devils on SI. Duke University has settled its lawsuit with quarterback Darian Mensah. This case is now over, and Duke can now move on and prepare for its 2026 campaign without this headache still going on. Absolutely chaotic case from the moment of its inception, and was just a chaotic couple weeks for the Duke program, for Darian Mensah, and really for all the fans. So again, a little bit of background for any fan who might need some potential insight on what this case actually was. So Duke University sued its quarterback, Darian Mensah, after Mensah announced he would be entering the NCAA transfer portal just hours before the portal entry window was set to close on January 16th. Mensah had signed a 2-year contract with Duke after the 2024 season. Mensah started as a redshirt freshman at Tulane, hit the portal. Duke signed him to a 2-year deal worth around $7.5 million. That deal was set to expire on December 31st, 2026. Contracts in this sport mean nothing. Mensah still hits the portal anyway and basically just says, never mind. Now, what's different about what Duke did here is they didn't just say, okay. They stood their ground and they fought back and they sued their quarterback for breaching the terms of his contract. Now, what makes it really difficult for Duke to succeed in a case like this is that the NCAA is extremely passionate of not considering its athletes as employees. It's very, very, very against that, which would have made this a really hard case for Duke to ultimately win, because they were ultimately suing Mensah for leaving the football program. So a school can't really prevent a kid from transferring to another university. And Duke ultimately elects to just get this out of the way quickly. The case was supposed to be heard on January 29th. The preliminary injunction hearing was originally for February 2nd. It got moved up to January 29th. Darren Heitner, Mensah's attorney, and the rest of their team were looking to expedite that hearing basically the entire time, so no NCAA enrollment rules could come into play that could prevent Mensah's transfer altogether. But anyway, it's over. It's settled. Duke and Mensah decide to settle before it even goes to court. This was a statement this morning from Young Money APAA Sports. Through close collaboration and principled negotiation, we have successfully navigated an unprecedented path, one that has now reached a fair and mutually agreeable resolution. With that foundation in place, we are pleased to announce that Darian Mensah, supported by our team of legal counsel and Young Money APAA Sports, has reached a settlement agreement with Duke University. Now, Mensah is expected to head to Miami. That was always the school to watch. They were always rumored to be offering him a major NIL contract. So that is where Mensah is anticipated to end up out of the portal, remaining in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Duke will face Miami on the road during the 2026 season. This was a statement from Duke University after the settlement was announced. Quote, Duke University Athletics and Darian Mensah have reached a resolution that enables both parties to move forward. We are committed to fulfilling all promises and obligations Duke makes to our student athletes when we enter into contractual agreements with them, and we expect the same in return. Enforcing those agreements is a necessary element of ensuring predictability and structure for athletic programs. It is nonetheless a difficult choice to pursue legal action against a student and teammate. For this reason, we sought to resolve the matter fairly and quickly. So, I mean, what a situation that Duke University has been involved in, and really a defining legal case around college athletics for the foreseeable future, and really just poses the question is, what does anything mean? If these contracts mean quite literally nothing, what stops a player from really transferring at any given point? Duke signed Mensah to a 2-year deal. Mensah signed that deal, and it specifically said in that contract that he was not allowed to go play for another institution. All Mensah really had to do was say, never mind. And that's it. And that's the state of where we are with college football. It is a wild time. The NIL era is so ridiculous. It's so intense. And it has really just thrown this Duke football program off its horse for the 2026 season. Now, one of the biggest reasons Duke sued Mensah was because it put the program itself in an impossible spot after Mensah elected to hit the portal. Again, just about a month before Mensah announced he was entering the portal, he had made a video, publicly released video, saying he was heading back to Duke for the 2026 season. It was similar to LeBron James's, quote, the decision video back in the early 2010s. Mensah released one of those saying he was coming back to Duke. And it's literally as simple as Mensah just saying, never mind, he's not doing that. What are the rules? What are the expectations? How does a team like Duke, that isn't a storied program with all the NIL money in the world, succeed in the long term if it's literally just as easy for a player like Darian Mensah to just say, never mind, that contract doesn't matter anymore, I'm a student? Granted, Mensah didn't do anything wrong. I don't want to put Mensah in a bad light. If you're a college kid and you're offered a deal like the contract Miami is willing to offer him, which is country club housing, an Adidas brand deal, an opportunity to play for a team coming off a national championship appearance in one of the most storied programs in the country, you can't blame Mensah at all for taking that deal. He's a college kid with NFL dreams. Sure, we get it. But at the end of the day, these contracts have to mean something. There can't just be a contract set in place that has zero obligations in the grand scheme of things. Because if this contract and this whole dispute between Duke and Mensah shows anything, it's that these contracts literally don't mean anything. It's literally as simple as Mensah getting another offer, Miami resetting the market, and Mensah deciding to leave. And it's literally as simple as that. What makes it so hard for universities to use these NIL contracts as leverage in these cases, and what Duke just showed is, like we mentioned earlier, the NCAA is very passionate about not considering its players employees. Its athletes are athletes, and these contracts are not based on on-field performance. But Duke is obviously suing him for leaving the football program. How do they win? Obviously, Duke wanted to get this case out of the way and now move on. Now, interestingly, Duke is actually being praised by coaches around the country and staffers and general managers for the way they handled this situation in this current era of college football, where it's really just so lawlessness. This is according to CBS Sports' Chris Hummer. A Big 12 general manager told him, I think that our sport is falling apart the way blatant tampering is happening around the country, and there seems to be zero accountability. Where does it stop if this is allowed to happen without full liquidated damages being sought after? Would be curious to see how many people tamper with players to unenroll post-spring ball if they have unexpected needs. A Big Ten general manager also told Hummer, we can hold guys accountable for up to 100% of remaining contract value if they decide to leave, and we plan to do that for any of our top guys. Only leverage we have. Another Big 12 general manager told Hummer, I thought it was a good step in the right direction that contracts mean something. Again, this was all revolved around the Duke dispute with Mensah, and after it was settled, Duke stood its ground and did its best. It didn't just give in to this world of NIL and it said, no, we signed him to a 2-year contract. He has another year on it. What are we doing if these contracts literally don't mean anything and all Mensah has to do is hit the portal and that's it, and Duke's contract just vanishes into thin air? It just does not make any sense. Sure, Miami is giving Duke a pretty considerable buyout to get Mensah over to the Miami program, but that doesn't really matter at the end of the day. That isn't the point here. The point is that Darian Mensah had committed to Duke and literally announced he was re-signing. And at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything at all. And Duke football, in the matter of about 2.5 weeks, has gone from a team that had true 2026 college football playoff aspirations after coming off an ACC title for the first time since 1989 in 2025 to a team that's scrapping and clawing a team together at the very last second. It also lost. This has kind of flown under the radar with this Mensah deal. But after Mensah entered the portal, Duke also lost its top receiver, Cooper Barkate, to the portal as well, with Miami as a school to watch. Barkate entered the portal about 3 days after Mensah did, and Miami was a school to watch. Barkate transferred over from Harvard to Duke in 2025 and also announced he was re-signing with the program. He was back with the team as well. But he ultimately hits the portal a couple days after Mensah, and again, that means nothing as well. Barkate became the first 1,000-yard Duke receiver since Jamison Crowder in 2014. He finished second in the conference in receiving yards, second in the conference in receiving touchdowns. And just like that, both those guys are out the window and with no questions asked. There's no why this happened. There's no explanation needed. These guys hit the portal. Great. Okay. See you never. Like that. It's just the way college football is now. And it's becoming such a major problem because there's just no laws. There's no rules. It's just constant chaos. And these coaches can tamper and come in and swoop players really at any point. And it just doesn't make any sense after a while. Miami threw a bag at Darian Mensah at the last second after missing on portal QBs like Sam Levitt and Ty Simpson. And they go after Mensah and they land him. And again, I want to reiterate, you can't blame Mensah. I think it's impossible to give Mensah any, bad mouth for what he did. Sure, the timing was terrible. And he probably was having talks with Miami before the last few hours of the deadline. Sure, the timing was terrible. It could have been handled so much better, and it puts Duke in an impossible position to succeed with the portal being closed 5 hours after Mensah announced to enter the portal. You can't blame the athletes. You have to blame the system. And this is going to become, I think, a defining case in college football in the future. And that type of case that really reset the stage and kind of open the eyes of a lot of fans and people around the sport that, okay, something needs to change. We're seeing it based off these reports with Chris Hummer that people around college football are applauding Duke football for handling this. And there's just got to be some change. Who knows when that's going to happen? Who knows what's coming? Who knows if anything's coming at all? The NCAA is a complete mess right now. But bottom line, Darian Mensah is gone from the Blue Devils, settled on the morning of January 27th before court happens. So where does Duke go from here? All signs point to the team's 2006 starter being Walker Eget, 6'3", 223-pound quarterback who has spent the last 4 seasons at San Jose State. A little bit about Eget. So he's out of California, rated as the number 90 quarterback and number 122 player out of the state of California, according to the 247 Sports 2021 composite rankings. Spent 4 years with the San Jose State program, started for 2 of them, and now he's likely going to be Duke's starter. In 2024, he started 7 games, throwing for 2,504 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions as the full-time starter. In 11 games for the Spartans in 2025, he went for 3,051 yards, 17 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and 2 games of over 450 passing yards. Again, he's an experienced and quality starter that Duke's likely going to have. I've seen certain reports that his eligibility is still slightly up in the air. He's expected to play for Duke in 2026, but still awaiting his waiver guaranteeing him eligibility for the 2026 season. But all signs point to Walker Eget being the team starter in 2026. And sure, he's a serviceable quality starter, but Duke just lost probably a guy who was entering the 2026 season as a top 5 quarterback in the country. Now Duke is set back wildly with Barcade gone as well. They're bringing in a couple talented receivers in the portal, but at the end of the day, in just 2.5 weeks, Duke has gone from true college football playoff contender and contender in the ACC once again to no one has any idea what Duke's going to be because they're scrapping together a roster at the very last second. So that's where we are in Duke football. Darian Mensah is gone from the program officially. This mess is over. Duke fans can get it out of their minds. Let's just prepare for 2026. Darian Mensah will no longer be a part of the program. As always, we thank you so much for listening to us here on the Duke Blue Devils Insider Podcast. Always be sure to check us out at si.com/college/Duke to stay up to date on all things Duke Blue Devils news. My name is Hugh Strain, your daily host and writer at Duke Blue Devils on SI. We'll see you tomorrow.